What's up, everyone? If we haven't met yet, my name's Logan, and I'm so pumped that you decided to click on this video and come hang out with us for a little bit. So we're in week 3 of this series called Awkward. Man, can I be honest with y'all for a second? Okay, let me just be super real, super honest with you guys for a second. I do not like family pictures. Can I just say that? Can I just jump out and say that? I do not. I feel like they're the most awkwardest thing ever. Like family pictures, like I'll just be standing there. My mom's like, "All right, guys, let's take a picture," and I'm like, do I put my hands in my pocket? Do I just kind of put them here? Do I behind the back? Are we hugging? Are we smiling? No, I don't. Man, family pictures are so awkward to me, and I don't know why. It's just the weirdest thing. But what I've noticed is, man, awkward situations and awkward moments, they're kind of just like a part of life. You know, like those moments in life that are just cringy, like that word cringy, or uncomfortable or embarrassing. Like moments like this are just a part of life, and they're stuff that we're just gonna go through. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this series of Awkward, what we've been going through the past 2 weeks has really felt kind of like that. If I'm being honest, like cringy, a little uncomfortable, a little embarrassing maybe in parts, but I think that a lot of the times the things that we're talking about in this series can feel like that. It can feel just awkward, like things such as our sexual desires or things such as desires, like I said. I think things like that can feel pretty awkward, especially when you're talking about them in church, And this is the thing. I think we all value different things. Like, we all value something, and so I think that a lot of the times when we're talking about desires and stuff, we tend to value things based on what they can give back to us. So we're valuing things such as, I like to think of a bag of Doritos, right? Like I'd like to think of how a bag of Doritos has all this value when it's full of chips, and when it's really full, that has so much value. But then what happens? You eat all the chips, you lick the dust off your fingers, and the bag is empty. And when the bag's empty, there's not much value. It's literally trash now. And so once you've got what you wanted, once you've received what you wanted from this item, from this bag of Doritos, then there's nothing left in it, and it's not worth anything. It's worth no value. And you see, I think we do that a lot of the times with things, especially some of our desires. We say, yeah, this person, this thing has all this value, but once I get what I want, once I get the thing that I need from them, they're not valuable to me anymore. They have no value whatsoever to me, and I think that's a problem. Because I think there's one thing when we do it with these things or stuff that's in our life, but I think there's another thing when we decide to do it with people. When we decide to use people and different humans and different friends or family or maybe just even acquaintances like they have no value. When we treat people that we're around, people that we're doing life with, like they're just something that we can get something out of. Man, I think when we do that, we're devaluing people. And we're not living the life that God's called us to live. And so maybe for you felt this a little bit. Maybe for you, you'll say things about someone's body or someone's personality that just probably are really straight up aren't respectful. Maybe you've done that before, or maybe you think about them in ways that don't value them. You think about someone in your class or someone at your school in a way that just doesn't respect them, in a way that doesn't honor God and the person, or maybe you pressure them into doing things they aren't comfortable with. Maybe that's you, and you've just been that person. Or maybe for you behave in ways that make you feel good, but not them. You behave in ways that make you feel like you're awesome, but they don't benefit or respect or add value to the people around you. So I don't know if you've ever, if you can even relate to any of those, but man, I personally can relate. And so when we treat others like they don't have value, we wind up treating them like objects. We wind up treating people like objects that can just give us something that'll benefit us rather than treating them like legit people. Like the person that God created them to be, like a person with their own thoughts, emotions, desires, a person with their own heart. And you see, each of us desires this. Each of us desires to be valued and respected. And so, just like the golden rule says, why shouldn't we start with doing that for ourselves? Because, if we can do that for ourselves, man, we can do that for others. And so this is what I want to bring to us today as kind of like a hope, is that even if you've experienced some of these things that I just talked about, I want you to know this. God made each of us so we all have value and importance. Let me say that again. God made each of us so we all have value and importance. You see, we should start by believing that we all have value as creations of God, then focus on treating people with the respect and value that they deserve. Man, let me tell you a little bit about this guy named Jesus. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Logan, of course I know who Jesus is. Who doesn't know who Jesus is? But I want to start by just literally telling you a little bit about more who Jesus is. Because I think a lot of the times we can say, oh yeah, Jesus, he's awesome. But actually, I want you to know today who Jesus really was. Like, know legit who this guy that everyone's talking about was. And so I want to start the story in this place where Jesus is just chilling with a bunch of these religious leaders, these scribes, these people that want to learn from him. And they look at Jesus and they ask him this one question. They're like, Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? Like, what is the number one thing that we can do on this earth that you are calling us to do, that you want us to do, to follow you? And he says this in Mark 12, 30 through 31. He says, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. I just want to stop right here for a minute. And really, let's try and understand what Jesus is trying to say through this. What I think he's saying, or what I know he's saying, is the first one is this: love God with everything you've got. Love God with everything that you've got. Everything. With your heart, your soul, your mind, everything. God is calling us to love him in that way, but then he's also calling us to love our neighbor as ourselves. He's calling us to love the people around us just like he did. And so you might be asking, man, who's my neighbor? Your neighbor, the person you walk past in the hallway at school. The kid that sits next to you in your class. That's maybe a little bit different than you. These are the people in our life, even your family, that we can consider our neighbors, and these are people that Jesus is calling us to love, no matter if they're different than us. No matter if what they look like, no matter what our desires may be towards that person, God is calling us to love him with everything we got, and love our neighbor, again, as yourself. And so what I believe is that God wants us to know from this verse is that he cares deeply about the way we treat other people. He cares deeply about the way we treat other people. And if we want to follow God's greatest commandment, we need to start with value. Not just for ourselves, but others. And I think that this can apply to our desires in our life that we may have with certain people. And so one thing we can do is we can start practicing sexual integrity. Now, I think by choosing to respond to the sexual things we feel, think, and desire in a way that respects others, God, and ourselves, that's what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about how we can live a life like that, a life that values others, values ourselves, and values God in all the decisions we make with our desires. And so how we treat others matters to God. But not only that, how we treat others and ourselves matters to God. And so the next time we start to find ourselves in a situation like this, the next time we start to find our self in the situation where we don't know how to respond to a sexual desire, I think we can ask ourselves a few questions. And I think the first one is this: what would it look like for me to treat this person in a way that honors God? What would it look like for me to treat this person in a way that honors God? I think that by simply asking ourselves that question, like slowing down and truly asking that question to ourselves, like it's gonna open up so much of your own eyes to be like, wow, am I really doing this? Like how can I do this? Like how can I truly honor people with the decisions I make? And then the second question I think we can ask ourselves is this: do I believe I have value to God, others, and myself? Do I believe that I have value to God, others, and myself? I think asking these two simple questions can really help us understand for ourselves what Jesus is trying to say through this little verse. I think by asking ourselves these hard questions, it's definitely not going to be fun to be real and honest with ourselves, but I think growth comes from that. I think we begin to see, okay, yeah, this is not right. But let me see what Jesus says about it, and let me live in a way that's right, a way that honors myself, a way that honors others, a way that honors God. And so maybe you're sitting here today and you're like, man, Logan, I haven't really been valued or respected because of the way someone has treated me. Maybe it's a friend or a family member. And if that's you today, I just want you to remember that you have value. That God said it from day one. Jesus has been saying it all along. You have value. And whether you see that right now or not, I just want you to know that right now. That God loves you. He's created you and designed you to have a relationship with Him. And you have value. There's value and a purpose for your life. And I want to tell you today that God looks at you as if you're an endless supply bag of Doritos. Yeah, I know. That's bringing it back to the reference in the beginning, but God looks at you as if you're an endless supply of Doritos. God's always eating Doritos, licking the dust off his fingers, but that's how He looks at you. He looks at you as someone that never loses value. That's how important you are to God. He loves you so much, and so how you treat others and yourself matters to God. How you treat the people around you, the people you interact with, and even yourself matters to God because you are important to God. And the people around you are important to God. And so when we learn to love, when we learn to value and respect others or ourselves, we'll do the same for others. It all starts with how you see yourself. And this last thing, I just want to end with this last question. This last question is, what's one way you can show someone you value them? What's one way this week that you can show someone in your life that you care about them, that they are important to God, because you've realized that you are important to God? So maybe for you, that's writing a letter to your mom and just telling her how thankful you are for everything she does for you. Or maybe someone in your family writing a letter to. Or I don't know, just giving someone a gift that really means a lot to them. I don't know what that looks like for you in your life, but what's one way that you can make, or you can show someone you value them? Because the truth is, you are valued by God. And when you realize that, you can show other people that they're also valued by God. And so, until next time, guys. Peace.